and Jake's going to take you up to this first stop point, where you'll have to patiently wait for the video team and me to catch up to you.
Over that where the little boulder. Yeah, see the boulder on top? Yeah.
So learn it, and then you're going to...
It's the second most powerful insect sting in the world, and it will paralyze you and make you scream.
Oh yeah. Of course I'm going to ride it blind.
Has anyone ridden this trail before? Okay, so then most people haven't ridden it. You guys are in for a treat. This is a lot of fun.
Holy shit, you want to see this view?
It's ridiculous, huh?
Yeah. I'm absolutely certain that you don't get the scale of this landscape in this shot. But we're just looking at an enormous landscape. We're on the edge of a cliff here, as you can see. Get out of the way.
No, wait.
I got a nice one again from Stirl. It's like a Paul Hollywood handshake, that is. Oh yeah, this way. Okay, today's over. That's the second day of riding. We did a big ride today. I say big, it was actually about 16 miles, but the terrain was relentlessly technical all the way. I'm not sure if that's going to come across in the video, but yeah, it was hard. And it was also at 5,000 feet altitude, so for me as a Brit, that's always a bit of an issue. Anyway, the bike, yes. Talking to a few people, there's a bit of a consensus amongst the journos here, which is the bike's great, but it's hobbled by LiveValve. Everybody that I spoke to was saying how they were just trying to deactivate it, turn it down. The engineer today switched mine in from race mode, which it was in yesterday, to comfort mode, and it did make a big difference. But then again, not as much a difference as if it wasn't there at all. Seems a bit unfair, really. I mean, it's amazingly impressive technology, but I just haven't yet found circumstances where it actually improves the ride. I mean, the engineers themselves were saying that it's kind of it's a high-end edition. It's kind of a racing thing. I can see that in racing, certainly, you know, on an acoustic bike in cross-country racing. I get it. I think that's where it belongs. Does it belong on an e-bike? I don't think so. I'm not convinced. But anyway, ignoring LiveValve for a moment, because that is an option on the top two levels, and it doesn't come on the level 3 and level 2 version of this bike. So let's just put LiveValve to one side for a moment and talk about the actual bike. I found it to be very capable. It was great. I kind of feel that it needed a bigger fork. I could have done with a 38 on that, but I'm prepared to put that down to the fact that I think the LiveValve was interfering with the 36 that's on there, to a point that if the LiveValve wasn't on there, then I think the 36 would be absolutely fine. For Brits, that's going to be a bike. I mean, Giant were trying to convince us that this is a do-it-all bike, and I think in the UK it probably is. I think the new battery that's in there, the 400 watt-hour battery, and the fact that this bike, even with LiveValve on, which I'd love to strip off, comes in at 19 kilos, that bike handled like an ordinary bike. And The test for me with that, first of all, the first thing you do, you get on one of these new bikes and just turn the motor off and try riding it around the car park. Okay, car park test now. Let's give this look at that. Can you see that? It's got my name on. This is mine. It's coming home with me. It's not really. So turn the e-bike on. I'm actually just riding it. This is the light version. This is the top spec one. 400 watt-hour battery capacity. Lightweight, 19 kilos. Got my LiveValve all set up now by the engineers. I'm riding it, first of all, with the motor turned off. And you get an instant feel as to whether it's going to be something that you're going to be happy riding out on the trails. I know it's a car park test, it doesn't mean anything. It's just the first step, you know. If you've ever ridden a big, full-fat e-bike and you've turned the motor off and tried pedaling it, it's painful. This was not. This bike was very capable with the motor on or the motor off. I had no worries that we were going to run out of power. Because I knew that if we did, I'd still just be able to ride it back. I wouldn't have had as much fun. As it turned out, I did get back with 2 bars out of 5 left in the tank. God damn. I've got 2 bars in the tank, that's disappointing. Yeah, I'm going round again. Which is always a bit disappointing, to be honest. Because I think there's times where I thought I could have gone up a little bit in the power stakes and had more fun. But I didn't know the trail. That's my excuse. So anyway, the bike itself, I think it's great. I personally would like the bar a little wider. I didn't have any issues at all with the one-piece bar and stem. It's an interesting concept, the fact that it's adjustable. You can adjust the actual stem length from 50mm to 45mm to 40mm by using shims in the actual stem. You can also rotate it. How do you rotate a fixed bar and stem? Well, again, it's shims. There's enough room to put more shims. What this means is the adjustment is by a shed load of shims. I think I counted in the pack, there's 14 different sizes of shim, and it's all the combinations of those shims that give you the right roll and the right reach. But I mean, you're not going to be changing that all the time, so you're just going to get the bike and you're going to find what works for you, and then you put it together and you're going to stick with it. So it's not really a problem, the fact that there's so many parts in that stem. The motor, the Yamaha motor, I have to say again, I rode the Yamaha motor, the last time I rode it was about 5 years ago, and it's on one of Giant's first e-bikes. It was awful. It nearly killed me. In boost mode, it was practically uncontrollable. So I was a little reticent coming out here, and especially when they said, on sale that they're still using the Yamaha thing. But no, it's transformed. This Yamaha motor is very impressive. I have got no qualms about riding this motor. That motor is really responsive. It's the most reactive torque sensor I think I've ever ridden with, and there's very little run on of the motor, which is what happens when you pedal. You stop pedaling and the motor carries on for a short while. And now I'm getting lost. Tracks were good. I mean, it's Yamaha's exclusive to Giant, and because Giant is so big, and in the motor stakes, I guess Yamaha is not as big as Shimano and not as big as Bosch. This means that, unlike with Shimano and Bosch, Giant can actually dictate to Yamaha how they want the motor to work. And they've done that. They've actually told Yamaha they wanted the motor to fit into a certain space, and Yamaha made the motor to Giant specifications. There is no way that Shimano's going to do that for any brand, and there's no way that Bosch is going to do that. And that actually has led to, I think it's a 20mm difference in the actual clearance underneath the actual motor to the floor. And I noticed that today the clearance was excellent, so little pedal strike, and there were so many opportunities for pedal strike. I mean, this trail was so technical and so rocky. I mean, you could see crank marks, and you could see chainring marks in so many of the stones and the rocks. So yeah, it was. Oh, bastard. it handled really well. I absolutely had no problems with this bike at all. The lightweight nature of it, the fact that even for a what we call a low-fat mountain bike, it's got a 400 watt-hour battery in it. I mean, I think the Orbea Rise in its low-fat form, that was a massive Jeep. Just have a look at this. Wow. All right, yeah, where was that? Yeah, the Orbea Rise comes in as 360 watt hours. The Levo SL's 325. So this is a new sort of level of low fat at 400 watts. And to still, with that much capacity in the battery, to come in at 19 kilos for the whole bike, really impressive. There are alloy versions of this bike to come that will feature an 800 watt hour battery pack. Those will not be super lightweight, that's a full fat system. And it's also really important to note that this is actually a full fat system where the motor's concerned, because this is an 85 Newton meter motor. And the somewhat unique feature of this motor is the fact that you can actually tune the torque output. You can actually tune it between 20 Newton meters and 85. Why would you want to do that? Well, it depends if you're riding with other low-fat people that have got, so for example, the Trek, the TQ system, that's 50 Newton meters. The Levo SL from Specialized is 35 Newton meters. The Rise Shimano RS motor is 60 Newton meters. These things actually make a difference when you're riding, when bikes are mixed, they've got mixed levels of power. And this, you can actually tune it to whoever you're riding with. So it's pretty good. So overall, that's me here in the desert of Utah. Check out singletrackworld.com for my full report with all the numbers and the stats and the geometries and all that sort of thing. But I'm signing off here from Utah for the time being. I'll see you back in the UK. Cheers, guys.